in higher education, and you want to get there first. Be a generalist if you possibly can, but be able to put on the mask of a specialist whenever you can. That was one thing that I was incredibly fortunate to be able to do. I found myself at one time or another in the departments of sociology and anthropology and political science, and of course computer science and a number of others as well. And when I was there, I had to look like each one of them. So I looked like, and I still go to sociological conferences, and I'm seen as a sociologist. And I go to anthropological conferences, and I'm seen as an anthropologist. In fact, I have good credentials as an anthropologist. I was at the American Association of Anthropology conference 10 years ago, and 3 anthropologists took me to their room, they blindfolded me, they turned me around 3 times while they poured a beer over my head, and they had me say out loud, "I am an anthropologist." And so I am one. And it's fun going to anthropology conferences. Sign right up, wear your badge, it's okay. And I recommend this for you as well. Be liquid, be fluid. Because likely within the next 10 to 20 years, the traditional boundaries of the disciplines as we currently know them are going to shift. I don't think they'll ever disappear, but they will shift, and there will emerge a new class, a new kind of academic who will be a generalist most of the time, but a specialist when it counts. And when it counts will be when the grants come by. And then the way things will probably work will be that there will be a pool of generalists who will crystallize out as an area of specialization at grant time. And then they will relax back into the pool again of being generalists once that's over. They will still produce the work. No, they will do the work, but it won't be that specialist focus that we have now. And that will be both a gain and a loss, I think. That again is part of be loose, be light. Think about coyote. Think about having a box full of masks that you can put on and take off as you need them. You'll need them. Is there anything else I have to say about that, or are we, yeah, maybe not. I would mention one thing, and I did mention this before, but try not to be very specific about what it is that you're doing. This is not just to your department, but in particular to your students, because ambiguous geographies invite exploration. And it's very helpful, I think, to keep your students guessing just a little bit, to keep that mystery about what your program is actually up to, that strange glamour. I find that it works very well for us. People are always coming by trying to figure out what we're up to, and we're perfectly open. People come by all the time and sit in. In fact, there are always 3 or 4 people from town who are in their 50s or 60s, who are in the ACT Lab, taking the classes, who are not members of the university. Occasionally we get shit for that from the department, whereupon I make them guest lecturers, and then we go on from there. So every year we have 3 or 4 guest lecturers, very interesting people. At the moment, or well, not at the moment we're, the summer group is working, but we're not holding classes. We do a thing called the Google Summer of Code, which is sponsored by Google, the search engine, and they give us money to do open source coding projects during the summer, and we have a group of 20 programmers who are back there. We communicate by Skype and by email all the time, and they are writing programs right now while I'm talking to you. Actually, yeah, they are. And they keep their door open, and people come by and say, "What are you doing?" And they give them a little tour, but not a complete tour. The older people are in the ACT Lab during the semester. One of them was the chief engineer for the Pacifica Radio Network, which is the alternative to listener-supported radio, or rather the alternative to government-supported listener-supported radio in the United States. He has a lot of stories to tell, and on Tuesday nights, he runs a clinic for people who want to do pirate radio. We show people how to build pirate radio transmitters and how to deploy them in communities and how to hide them from the Federal Communications Commission. And this is more complex than you might think. You do strategies like you get a pressure cooker and you fill it with vegetable oil and you immerse the transmitter in that. You put the top on. You bury it 9 feet deep in your backyard. Then you have a fake transmitter in the house so that when the FCC comes and busts you, they take your fake transmitter. Then you're back on the air. This is real. These are real strategies. I'm not kidding. Pirate radio is alive and well in the United States. We have 2 pirate radio stations in Austin. We have a pirate radio club with about 20 members. People come from all over the world to take the course. This is, in the United States, this may seem silly because there's so much radio, but all of it, without exception, is either controlled by big corporate interests or by the government, and neither of those have your interests at heart. They're there either to sell ad space to companies, or they are there to convey their particular political message. But what is really going on? And how do you find out? You find out through pirate radio. And so we consider this to be a real service and something that needs to be done. And we do it. This is something that the university, by the way, looks the other way about. For years, we have been the main northern internet node for the Zapatista movement in Chiapas, Mexico. A number of years ago, the Mexican embassy tried to get us closed down. And the university, much to their benefit, said that we were part of an educational institution and protected by the Constitution, which, of course, the Bush administration is trying to do away with. And they wouldn't allow us to be closed down, and so we're still there. We are working on an alternative to pirate radio. The problem with pirate radio is that you have one transmitter. So you have one central point of failure. Now, the original idea behind the internet was that because it was distributed, and because at least in theory, every computer could be an individual node in the network, the internet in theory would treat any kind of censorship as damage, and it would route around it. Now, in practice, of course, increasingly, the internet is being corrupted and being taken over by large corporate interests who will eventually treat it just like the broadcast medium, like the airwaves. Everything will be controlled. But at the moment, we still have a certain amount of freedom. Now, there are, of course, many nations in the world, particularly still in the developing world, where there are very, very few broadcasting stations, and those are controlled either by the government or by private interests. And in those countries, there is no public radio. And pirate radio stations can not only be busted, but the people who run them can be put in jail. We are working on an alternative to this, which is called the Nanocast Task Force. Notice the word nano. I am partly fulfilling my commitment to Wolfgang. Okay, the Nanocast Task Force has developed a very small device. It's about that big. You can wear it like a brooch.